So let's continue the code. So this is just a simple asking the user to input the numerator and the denominator, and if the denominator is invalid or unusual, which is equivalent to 0, we just want to display that it cannot be divided to 0 for the denominator, and then it ends the program. So what if I don't want to end the program and I want to validate the denominator until the user will input the correct value for the denominator, which is either a negative or a positive number, not which is not equivalent to 0. Okay, so we're going to add another syntax, which is a while loop. Okay, and then I'm going to declare another variable here for the declaration for us to use the while loop. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to make use of Boolean expression. And then I'm going to use ans equals true. Okay, so you may use that bool ans equals true, or this is optional. You may also use the continue, the break, or the stop to stop the execution of the loop. We also make use of the break statement. Later on, I'm going to do that also. Okay, so in this case, since the numerator, we do not have any problem with the numerator, and we have a problem with the denominator if instead, if in case that the input is 0. So the one that I'm highlighting is the one that I'm going to include within the while loop. So from the cout, enter value for the denominator until the catch block. I'm going to include that in the while loop. Okay. So how are we going to do that? So I'm going to type while, then parentheses, begin and end. Then I'm going to highlight cout until catch block, cut it, and put it within the while loop. Okay, so please again put a program comment. Okay, so this is the end of while loop. Then this is end main. Okay, so what are we going to do is, I'm going to put a condition inside the parentheses of the while loop, and that is while ans. While true, I'm going to ask for the value for the denominator and test if the denominator is equivalent to 0. If it's not 0, then I'm going to do the more codes, and then I'm going to add ans equals false to stop the execution of the loop. Okay, if we're not going to include ans equals false, what will happen is it will again ask the user to input the value for the denominator again and again and again. Okay, so we need to stop the execution until we finish and process the quotient. We need to stop the execution of the loop. That's why we have to include ans equals false here at the last portion of the try block. If this is not true, then we'll proceed to the more codes processing the quotient, and then change the value of ans to false to make and to stop the execution of the loop. Okay, now what if, okay, the denominator is 0? So we are going to throw the exception, use again deno, and then automatically it will jump to the catch block to display that the value is invalid. And then we're going to add another syntax here, that is the word continue. Continue means that is actually again going back to the first line of the while loop. So continue is going back to the first line of the while loop, which is what? Enter value for the denominator. So I will, yan, meron ng NL here. Okay, so let's try to run the code again. Enter value for the numerator, so 9. Okay, then 6. Okay, so 9 divided by 6 is acceptable. 6 is acceptable in the denominator because 6 is not 0. So it will display the value and stop the execution of the loop because we changed the value of ans to false. So 1.5. Okay, but if I'm going to run again and execute the code with 9 and then with 0, it will jump to the catch block and display 0 is invalid, cannot be divided by 0. Then the program will still ask the user to re-enter the value. Okay, if you're going to see the output, the program is asking again the user to enter the value for the denominator. So that means 0 is not acceptable. You need to re-enter the value of the denominator. So now, the numerator is 9 and the denominator now is acceptable, which is 3. Then it will proceed again to process the more codes and output 3.0 as the quotient.